welcome to a new video of the series of S4HANA. This time we're going to be configuring one of our basic settings for quality management, QM. So we go to basic settings, and then we go to maintain settings at the plant level. Here we will have different plants, and we will need to configure plant by plant. Okay, if you're going to do a new rollout, then you can copy from your old plant if you want, or any other reference plant. In this case, I will use the generic SAP plant, like 0001, for example. Okay, so I'm going to click on this plant, and then I'm going to use these two sheets that it means copy as or from. Okay, if you want to start from scratch, you just go to new entries. In my case, I will just copy. When you do a copy, you need to remember to put your new plant there. In my case, it's C01. Okay. And we're going to start from the first tab, which is basically basic data. Here is important to, for traceability purposes, we want to have a kind of an old version. Okay, and every time we do a change, we will have a new version of the characteristics. So we want characteristics, the master inspection characteristic with history. The same happens for inspection method. Okay, would advise to use these two for traceability purposes, I would say. Okay, let's jump into the inspection lot creation now. Okay, this is a very common settings to keep it as containers that could receive to be possible, but not mandatory. Depending on the functionalities we want to use, we might want to use this as a mandatory because, for example, we want to know the numbers of, or we want to determine the numbers of samples based on the numbers of containers instead of the numbers of kgs or numbers of pieces, etc. Okay, so this will be a usage of making this mandatory, but let's leave this as a standard now for now. This will be the approach for all the others as well. Okay, we're going to just keep the standard, and then when we want to start doing testing functionalities, testing new functionalities, let's say, we will come back and make the changes, the adjustments. Okay. The inspection type for inspection stock 0800 or 800 basically is for a specific case. It's a one-off. When we activate, there is a stock in quality inspection because maybe has been using it, right? You can send directly to quality inspection stock with without the QM module, okay? So you can be moving things around and keeping it there. You do the movement 321, and then you are sending that to unrestricted, okay? But suppose you want to activate QM and you already have a stock there. So this will be a kind of an automatic inspection type to be able to move from quality inspection to unrestricted. Okay. Otherwise, it will get stuck there until you create a kind of a dummy inspection plan and do the user decision, etc. This is an easy way of doing it. Then we have this for lot count assignment. Basically, this is for quality costs. Okay, we can create certain quality orders, okay? And these are the type of settlements, okay? This is for individual settlement. It means for every special lot. But the second one is for collective. It means it does not depend on a specific inspection lot, but in general, in many inspection lots or different products, etc. Okay, this is more kind of an overhead cost in this case, and this is just individual cost per inspection lot. Okay, the setting for sample procedures, this would be basically used as a default values, okay, for inspection point, for plant maintenance, but all these will be functionalities we will see later. So we will come back probably to put some default sample procedures here, okay, because if we don't do it in a different object, then the system needs to have at least a default at the plant level. Okay. Same for these settings for characteristics. Okay, so we define here kind of a characteristic weighting. This is a weighting factor. Okay, that will be inside this. We will configure those weighting factors here. Okay, and then we assign it. So we will leave this default for now. Let me go now to the results recording. Okay, when we talk about the summarized recording for n equal 1 means the system determines that you need to just inspect one sample. In that case, this will help to streamline, to facilitate the inspection, okay? So summarizing the results instead of going through all the different characteristics, okay? But this is a particular functionality. We might see it later, okay, in another video. Limit marginal classes always ticked, always activated, because when we're dealing with class-based inspections, we need to have a limit. If the limit is not defined, with this, we will use the marginal, the plausibility, I'm sorry, and the plausibility factor to calculate this limit, okay? Okay, talking about the plausibility factor, this is basically a functionality that will send a warning or even, or let's say, yeah, an error message if it's needed because you are exceeding, let's say, the typical values, I would say. Okay, so plausibility is if that value makes sense, right? So typically that's why we leave this 200 because it's basically twice, right, the value you're going to measure. And if you put a value that is really, really high outside that limit, it will not let you put that number, okay, because something is wrong, definitely. Okay, additional decimal places. This is a case where we are putting some decimals, right, to certain measurement, and the measurement has, for example, two decimal places only, but from the QM perspective, we might need three or four, okay? So this is the additional one, right? If we have two and we put one, it means we have three, okay? And so on. Well, simple start values typically will leave in one. This is just the simples, right? The simple will be one, two, three, four, and the start will be one. I mean, and since the interval is one, it will be one, two, three, four. If we put interval like five, for example, right, we will have or 10, right? We will start 1, 10, 20, etc. Okay, so the typical thing is 1, 1. So the step is 1 and the starting is 1. For 10, we might want to start with 10, 20, 30. I mean, not from 1. Okay, then for decimal places, yes, we can throw, let's say, warning, or we can put an arrow if you're exceeding the decimal places, okay? Because they're not going to be recorded. They will be recorded only the typical defined for that measurement plus the ones we are assigning here. Okay, inspection point, typically we will use the 100, which is the freely defined. We will see in configuration that we can add different fields into this one. Okay, the partial lot assignment, this is an important thing because it will define the behavior, okay, of a partial lots and inspection points. Basically, we will leave this as it is, partial lots and batch in each inspection point, but there are some plants that might not support the partial lots, for example. If you're not planning to use partial lot, maybe you can just put not supported, okay? The partial lot is related to inspection points because you might want to inspect, for example, every 1 hour, you want to inspect a material that's being produced, right? And then if there is any changes, you can generate a new batch, for example, okay? And you create an inspection lot and a new batch because you know some parameters are different from the other one, okay? This is an example. I think we will see some functionalities related to this when we talk about inspection points. Okay, the full value for evaluating inspection points. This area is specifically for defaulting some catalogs and selected set for the inspection point. Okay, this normally has to be at the plant level, so it means that we need to have this catalog created. Since haven't created any catalog yet, or any selected set neither, we cannot assign here. Just for the sake of understanding, this is basically the user decision catalogs and selected set, right? Inside this plant, for example, right? Then you can choose or CO3 in production, for example, and the CO3, and these are the codes, okay? The accepted, rejected, etc. Behind this, there might be a kind of a following on actions that will do something like, for example, moving the or creating the movement 321 to send it to unrestricted from the inspection stock. Okay, we will discuss that later in processes for QM. We might need when we discuss about inspection points. Okay, let's jump into the inspection lot completion. Here we have a kind of a, for inspection posting, the movement 321 I mentioned. It's important because it's a typical one, right? We will be sending to unrestricted, and it's not causing any cost changes, okay, or updates. But when we are dealing with costs, I'm sorry, when we're dealing with movement for scrap or destroy material, for example, we might need a cost center because we are removing it from stock, and we need to assign that value to a cost center to redistribute, right, as a let's say scrap or rework or whatever we're doing, okay, with the material. But the first step is to assign directly for the movement, and then we can decide what to do, right? It destroyed, right? But scrap can be reworked, for example, okay? So you may get it back, but at least you need to have this cost center assigned, okay? Let me try to find, I think I have cost center for, at least for a scrap. Yes, okay, let me assign for scrap, both places. Again, it's very thin, let's say, line between scrap and destroyed. Scrap might be reused in some way, right? Still not completely destroyed, right? And destroy means you don't have it anymore, okay? You send it for disposal, for example, or something like that, okay? Okay, so basically the automatic use decision, sometimes when you have skip, for example, you need to use the functionality called automatic use decision, which is basically a background job that will be checking that all the specs are completed and they're correctly evaluated as positive, as okay, right? So if everything is okay, then the system can do the use decision and do the movement 321 to unrestrict the stock automatically. So for the skips, we'll put some buffers and time to give us some time to review the process, to realize if there is something wrong, right? Especially for the skip, because you're not inspecting it, right? You might see the container is open, for example. Then you have still time until it gets completely available, okay? You can play around with these values. Of course, you can reduce it, but the less value you put as a waiting time, the more risk you will have. And of course, this has to match the frequency of the background job, because if you do a background job once a day, right, it makes no sense to put it in 12 hours because it's not going to be happening anyway, right? Okay, we will discuss that in user decision functionality. Okay, batch valuation without material specification. The typical value is not active, okay, because you have values and you have inspection plans, for example, okay, but this will allow you to do some, let's say, valuation of a batch without having finished, let's say, the complete spec. It's a specific situation, I would say. General settings, yeah, we have here the inspection lot search. This is basically because an inspection lot can have a starting date and a finish date, right, or end date. So when we search, we typically search for the end date, but the inspection lot also is important when it was created. Okay, so we can assign here a period which is adjusted by SAP by 100. So we always have this range to capture or to search for this lot. Okay, if we don't put anything here, it's the same as having zero, means the end date and the start date is the same day. Okay. Okay, so let me jump into the visual planning. Okay, we're not gonna set up anything yet for visual planning. This is more for SPC, for example, statistical process control, some graphic inspection as well. So some graphics that you can see the trends of the values, if they're going up or going down. That might require some actions, okay? But we will see that in another functionalities, including the SBC one, okay? So let me say that I think we cover everything now. Since this is, let's say, okay, the plant, yeah, sorry, because I was playing around with some things here. It's causing this to comply because of course star or other plants are not in. This is the plant table in SAP. Okay, okay, save it again just to be sure. Yeah, perfect. So let me go back here. We have now our plant, new plant, and that's it. Okay, thank you for watching, and I see you in the next video. Thanks.